Hello and welcome to What Are You Saying? Hashtag Ways, where we talk about topics in the news as it affects us all. I am Musayome Saleh, and today is supposed to be our ladies' night out, but it's a special day because it's International Men's Day. And we have two lovely gentlemen with us in studio. Hello.
Hello, ladies. Hello.
All right, so there's June and there's Juwon. Why you both having J's? Is it coincidental?
Destiny.
Good things coming too, right?
So how do I pronounce your surname, June?
Beck.
Beck.
Yep.
Oh, nice. So where are you from?
Originally from Los Angeles, California. My parents went to the United States in their late 20s from South Korea. But originally from Los Angeles, born and raised, went to school in New York, worked in New York City, Wall Street for a couple of years, and then moved back to Los Angeles about 12 years ago or so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Thank you.
And you've been on the road.
I
Or
have.
You've been in the air.
I've been in the air,
Been on the
the
move.
road. Yeah, I've been everywhere. I've been traveling for about 4 weeks straight. This is my
Awesome.
last leg, and then after Nigeria, I finally get to sleep on my own bed for the first time in about a month.
Awesome. So tell me what you're doing in Nigeria.
I am here. Juan invited me to the Global Entrepreneurship Festival, which is the first of its kind in Nigeria. Super excited and honored to be here to participate. It's my first time in Nigeria. It's my first time in
Awesome.
Africa. But I've only been here for a couple hours, and I'm already thinking, when am I coming back?
Oh wow, that's nice. So Juwon is doing a great job.
He's doing fantastic.
So
He's doing
Juwon
fantastic.
is a friend of the house, Aragbaye.
Exactly.
How are you? Have you been?
I'm blessed. Doing
So tell the
fabulous.
audience, they don't know you.
Okay.
I've always had your sister on the show, but I've never
Yes.
had you on the show. So it's really nice to have you on the show.
Pleasure's mine.
So tell us more about Juwon.
So, as you know, my name is Juwan Rockbaye. I was born in Ibadan, from Ondo State, actually. I was born here. My parents went to the States when I was about 5 years old, almost 5. So I left Nigeria when I was about 4.5, 5 years old. And I've been in America doing my thing there. I'm a real estate investor. I'm a serial entrepreneur, but primarily real estate investing. Ty, that's been on your show, that's my sister, my younger sister. And her and I are doing things together in America and also here in Nigeria.
Awesome. I'm really loving the idea of bringing back some of our lost talents
Absolutely.
that are outside of the country. So I mean, from the day I met Nancy, I just knew we had to be friends. And it's been what, 3 years now?
Yes.
Like joke.
Yes.
But thank you. So you are also here for the Global Entrepreneurship Program.
Yes,
right?
I am.
Awesome. All right. So Uti Elu. How are you?
Hello.
Sorry, today's International Men's Day.
We have guests.
We have to give the men the floor.
Yeah.
So how have
Show
you
some
been?
love.
I'm good. It feels like everybody says they haven't seen me for so long.
Yeah, so they've missed you.
I've missed being here too.
Welcome. Awesome. All right, so tonight, as you can see, we have a very full house, and we're having a conversation, that would touch on investment, that would touch on globalization, that would just touch on a lot of things that we need to, open our minds to. And before we do that, if you are yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, go on to Official Upgrade TV and subscribe to our YouTube channel. As I said earlier, it's supposed to be our ladies' night out, but with a twist, because we have some gentlemen with us, right? So globalization and its impact on wealth creation via investment. That's the topic. And here's what we found as today's quote. It says, the world is flat, and globalization has allowed developing countries, small companies rather, and entrepreneurs to integrate into the wider economic system with greater ease than before. This was from Thomas Friedman. So when we open our phone lines, we'd love to hear your thoughts on this. If if you'd like to join the conversation. But first, let's run off on a break. When we come back, we'll have what we found today in the news. Stay with us. All right, thanks for staying with us now. Globalization refers to the increasing interconnectedness of economies, cultures, and populations across the globe, primarily driven by trade, investment, and technological advancements. This phenomenon has significantly influenced wealth creation through investment by expanding market access, enhancing competition, and facilitating capital flow. However, it also poses challenges such as increased inequality, economic volatility that must be addressed through sound policies and governance. Now, to share more insight or ideas into this idea of globalization and its impact via investment, we We have with us again, reintroducing them, Juan and of course June. Juan is, or June rather, is a senior wealth advisor and financial planner at Cetera Investors, and Juan Aragbaye is the CEO of Titan Enterprise Investment. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's leave all the long pleasantries because we have a lot of conversation to have.
No
All right,
problem.
so now, when I saw this topic, right, the first thing that came to my head was Jackpa. So you see that word globalization. So I remember having a conversation with one of my coaches, and he says, Uwa, if you take leaving your country to another, like an advanced country, like a developing country to a developed country, don't see it as you're running away from your country. Don't see it that you're migrating. See that you're evolving into becoming a global citizen, meaning that when you naturalize in those kinds of environment, you then have global access. So you can go anywhere in the world, you can invest anywhere in the world, you can become a global citizen just by that singular act. So when people are migrating and away from, because we have a lot of people leaving Nigeria and all of that, people in search of greener pastures, right? That is what they should be thinking about. So when I saw this topic, I thought it was quite an interesting conversation to have, because again, in the real sense, people do need to start to think global. Yes, you can be local, but if your thinking is global, it means that you be here, but you're trading with people, you're investing in people from all over the world. So help me understand, who's going to start first?
I'll take the floor on that. First
Yeah.
of all, whoever had that conversation with you, I love their mindset and what they express to you, and I love what you just said. So we live in a global world now. When you talk about iPhones, when you talk about social media, and just the access that we have with things now, it's a global environment that we live in. I was just having a conversation with a few of my friends yesterday about this topic, about just expressing yourself or thinking globally doesn't mean you have to leave your normal environment or wherever you were born or your nationality. You don't have to leave there. It's all about your mindset, right? So I look at individuals as a business. You have to look at yourself as a business, as a company. And you're the CEO of your own company, yourself. And if you look at things from that perspective, what would a CEO of their company do? Their job is to be a great steward of the finances or the well-being of their company. So the way I look at that is you have to do what you know will be best for you to move yourself forward. And oftentimes that might be putting yourself in different markets. When you think about some of the biggest companies in the world, whether it's Apple or Nike on a sports category, these companies are mobilizing in every country that they know there's value in. So I look at that the same way for myself. I live in America. I was born here in Nigeria, but I try to have access and I do business all across the world. Even in the States, I do business in every different state that I have access in or that I have resources or contacts in. So that's what I would say about that. I'll let June take the floor.
June, what's your idea of globalization? When you think globalization, what comes to your mind?
I think when I think globalization, well, let me first start off by I really like what Juwan said about thinking of yourself as a business. And when you think of yourself as a business is basically a revenue minus expenses equals profit, right? Revenue is how much income is that company generating, how much cash flow is that business generating, right? And you can think of it as yourself, as your own business, how much income are you generating as the revenue side, right? And expenses, whether you're a business and you have inventory or overhead, we as individuals have our own rent, our own mortgage, our own food, travel expenses, right? And whatever's left over is going to be your profit, right? And with regards to globalization, the world is becoming smaller and smaller, right? Everyone has one of these, in your, I don't want to mess up my mic. Everyone has one of these, and we have access to the history of the planet, right? As well as not just our own city that we live in, but, with social media, I can see what Nigeria is doing. I can see what Korea is doing. I can see what New York is doing, right? And with that, on the topic of globalization, you have to start training yourself and educating yourself on what can I do to invest in other opportunities, right? To increase that revenue side of your own personal business and your own personal brand, right? As yourself, right? So my job as a wealth advisor and financial planner is to help manage an individual's personal finances in terms of whether it's investing in the stock market or partnering up with professionals in the real estate space like Juwan, as well as managing taxes, right? Because with taxes, yes, you can make 10, 20%, but after taxes, if you're cut in half, right, managing taxes is probably the most important key aspect of maximizing your investments.
Absolutely.
I was going to say that taxes in Nigeria are not there yet. Managing taxes abroad, yeah, but not yet. Go ahead.
Makes sense. I mean, globalization with technology and with the internet, we've seen the world consistently shrink and shrink, and you sort of touched on that. But I want to bring it home. Obviously, you're here for an event, and that's because Nigeria holds a plethora of opportunities in sort of different segments, right? And I think one of the things that people miss out with investments is they associate it to wealth. So you have to start big. So if you think about your revenue and you think about your expenses, and then whether your profit is this big or your profit is this big, right? There's an investment that fits. So just sort of give some light into how you can start in investments no matter how little you have.
Perfect. So when we look at the investment world, yes, dollar amounts are important, but at the end of the day, performance metrics are based off of percentages, right? So no matter how big or how small the investment is, someone that's very wealthy with a 20% rate of return versus someone that's just starting to invest that also gets the same 20% of return, in terms of what actually applies to those individuals is going to be the same, right? So with starting to invest, I want to mention you should focus on things that you can control, right? And what can you control? You can control how much you actually save at the end of the month, right? So a lot of people, when they think about savings or investments, they look at the 30th or the 31st of every month and they say, hey, I paid my rent, I spent X amount on food, and I have this much money left over. That's what I'm going to save and set aside, or that's what I'm going to invest, right? But the proper way of thinking should be, if my rent is, I don't know, $500, right? And I want to invest $200, I shouldn't just invest what's left over. I should consider that $200 as part of my budget, right? So it's a change of mindset, right? But also going back to investments and talking about percentages, let's say you want to invest in Apple stock. In the US, it's around $200, right? If you have $200 to invest or more, great. But if you still think Apple is a great place to invest, you can also invest in a part of it, $50, well, US, $10 US, whatever, right? And you can, as the Apple stock continues to grow percentage-wise, so will your particular investment will grow equally.
Yeah.
Correct.
So let me touch on Juwan's. Okay, you want to go there?
No, I just
Real
wanted
estate,
to build on, no, before we even got to real estate, just talking about, because I think real estate is quite secure.
Is it?
No, the building's not moving.
I'm coming.
So in that sense, yes. No, but I was just going to, if you're building on the conversation around investments, I think one of the things that also makes people skittish about investments versus savings is the risk, right? It's that sort of, so maybe just speak a little bit about that.
Yeah, so volatility, like they say, high risk, high reward, right? Low risk, low reward. What is low risk? Cash under your mattress, right? Is it going to grow? Probably not. Is it going to lose value? Probably, right? Because with inflation, if you think about how much a gallon of milk or a liter of milk is today versus how much a liter of milk was 5 years ago or 10 years ago, right? If you
In
had
Nigeria, it's more like 2 weeks ago.
I was coming.
or
here.
2 weeks ago, right? So your particular dollar value will lose what's called purchasing power. What you can buy with that same dollar amount starts to go down, right? But yes, there is volatility. Like in the United States in 2008, 2009, the stock market crashed and 40% of the stock market went down, right? But I also want to, going on changing your mindset and thinking differently about how to invest, let's say you buy one Apple stock. What is a stock? A stock basically means you are a shareholder or a part owner of that company, right? Which means all the brightest minds on this planet that are working for Apple are your employees. As a shareholder, as part owner of the company, their sole job is to make you money, right? As part owner of the company. So whether it's Apple or Nike or some real estate company, right? So it's changing your mindset of what a stock actually is. And, you don't have to do too much research. I mean, you should do a lot of research, but start thinking about what things that you value, what companies or what commodities or what items that you value, right? Luxury brands, that's a separate category. If you like luxury brands, then hey, I want all these designers and companies working for me. Your job is to make me, as a shareholder, money.
Money.
You know?
Absolutely. So it's quite interesting because I was going to come to do you want to come in a little bit? Because again, you were just touching everything. I wrote down here volatile economy.
You can't talk investments without it.
Yes,
Correct.
but you see, the beautiful thing about globalization, right, and how the world has shrunk is that I can be here, and I can invest in a Tesla. I don't have to invest in my own
Correct.
stock within my economy because again, based on the volatility. Uti said 2 weeks. I think these days is 2 days. You can sleep and wake up, and the cost of milk has gone up, like 4 times the price. But let me touch on real estate, for instance, Juwon. Tell us a little bit about, because again, sometimes I worry in our economy here in Nigeria. I feel like buying a house in Nigeria, I think is a complete waste of money because you can literally buy a house. Okay, so I have a property right now that I'm looking for a buyer, and I'll tell you, this man bought this property at $1 million. He converted $1 million about 7 years ago to buy that property. You know what he's asking for now? He has built some things on that property. He has done built up to some level, and he just stopped and said he's not going ahead with the project. He's asking for just his $1 million. When he bought it, $1 million was 120 naira to a dollar. Today, as of today, I bought dollars. I bought $10,000 today. Dollar is 1,750 naira. So he's just kind of stuck. All he's asking for is, I just need back my $1 million.
Yeah.
So tell us, how do we approach real estate? Should we think globally? Should we think, let's start to buy properties maybe in more stable economy? And are there really stable economies when it comes to housing? Because we get reports too. We listen to your news and we see what is happening. So tell us a little bit.
So there are a few different components when it comes to real estate. Real estate is not just black and white. There are different layers to real estate, right? I look at this market as far as real estate, obviously, because everyone needs a place to live. So if you can afford a place to live, here you usually build your house, cash, you buy, and you live in it. So that's one component, just having a place to rest your head, shelter. Now, from an investment
standpoint,
from investment lenses, I think location is probably the very most important component here. Now, when you talk about abroad, there's a whole nother ball game because where I live in America, we use lending. So that's how you really have to leverage real estate. And I feel like once Nigeria starts to implement more lending, things will change as far as investing in real estate. But abroad, see, lending is like the key component that allows us to build the wealth through real estate because we're leveraging the money from the bank. And the money from the bank allows us to be able to buy an entire piece of the pie, which is the real estate. The bank asks you to put down maybe 10%, 12%, whatever the amount is. They'll purchase the rest for you at a fixed rate. Now, you as the investor, if you're savvy enough, you're able to take that real estate and rent it out to someone else at a much higher rate, or just let it grow. And then the difference between the rate you're renting it out, you make the profit. So lending is like the key component that allows you to build wealth through real estate because the dollar, even in America, that dollar, the US dollar, is always going to devalue over time. But as the dollar devalues, everyone knows, and if you don't know, I'll tell you, assets tend to go up. Every time they print more money, the dollar gets less and less purchasing power, like he said. With that, the opposite of that is your assets, they go up in value. So essentially, we put our dollars in assets. We use the depreciating dollar, which is the US dollar, or even any dollar. Any fiat currency in any country you're in is not real. It's just fake money. So we use the depreciating fake money to buy real assets, which in this case would be real estate. So my company, we offer what they call group economics with syndication deals, where we raise capital amongst everyday investors like us right now. We raise capital together, and together we buy big apartment complexes. We renovate them, we add the value, and then we go back to the bank, we refinance or we sell at a much higher price than we bought it at. The reason why that's such a powerful metric is because some of us can't buy big buildings by ourselves. So group economics, which I urge everyone to practice, get a friend, get a family member, sit down, learn the metric first, learn how the industry works, and come together, bring your money together because you're more powerful together than you are as an individual. Raise capital together and do projects together. That's what I do in the United States. That's what I urge anyone to do in any country that they're in. Once you learn the metric, get a group of your friends and together buy a building, renovate it, and everyone will make money, in opposed to just sitting there trying to save money forever,
Do it
forever,
yourself.
and do it yourself. Is more unity, is more power in unity.
So let's sit on group economics for a minute, right? So mortgages here are 30%, 35%, double digits interest, right? So
Per year?
yes, you probably, depending on how old you are, the cutoff is usually retirement age. So some banks 55. There's mortgages here is a whole completely different, ball game. So people who are buying here are buying cash down. So even if I was going to do group economics, right, and 10 of us put money together and we had $1 million and we did what he did, right? The challenge then becomes the naira is devaluing so fast, right, that you probably will end up at a loss of some
Negative,
sort.
yes.
So as the experts in that space, what's the recommendation to say, you know what, group economics still works. If you think globalization, probably don't invest your money here. But just how does that shift then happen to sort of protect ourselves but still benefit from group economics?
So my logic with that is, and I teach this back home, even in America, to my students, because where I live in that Los Angeles, where it's super expensive to buy just a house, you're not limited to wherever you live. That's what I would say to that. You're not limited, like she said earlier. You don't have to only invest in your place of residence. The world is shrinking. Someone like myself, I'm here now. If you have access to hear me today, I offer opportunities for people to invest in the U.S. through group economics with syndication deals. That's what I would say to that. No one's holding your hand and saying you must invest here, you must invest here. It's even smarter to invest wherever you could make the profits and then bring it back here. So that's what I would say to that. You're not limited to wherever you are living. You need to do your research, connect with people like myself or June, and find out if it makes sense for you to invest abroad, because for most people, it actually does. So back home where I live, I have investments in different states where I live. So just because I live in California, doesn't mean I invest in California. I invest in a state called Ohio because these markets are more beneficial for what I'm trying to do, which is grow my cash flow. So you can invest anywhere in the world, whether it's through stocks or through syndication deals, through people like myself in the real estate segment.
Awesome. Let's take a break. Yes, it's getting interesting. Stay with us. We'll be right back. So it's our ladies' night out with a twist, because we have some gentlemen here, and we're discussing globalization and its impact on wealth creation via investments. And we still have with us June and Juwan. Now, please, let's hear what you have to say. You can send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-84663. You can also call our phone lines. The numbers to call are 07025007749 or 07014242420. Remember, when you do call, please turn down the volume of whatever device it is that you are watching us from, so we hear ourselves. Okay, so housing is a challenge in Nigeria, a big challenge. I mean, based on Uti's story. And first of all, if you had something to say about how we could solve the problem, I mean, see what she said. If they want to sell, they'll sell at 9 million. But if they are bringing in private partnerships, it comes to 22 million. They were still struggling with paying 70,000 naira minimum wage. You know, and 70,000 naira right now cannot do anything. I'm going to fill my car with 140,000 naira. my tank. So to tell you, just I'm trying to put where 70,000 naira is. So I mean, because again, I like practicality when we talk investments, right? And we talk globalization. How do we leverage what you are doing in your various areas, abroad? How do we leverage that to solve some of these challenges that we have? Housing is a major challenge that we have in Nigeria. So when you're talking real estate, how do we do it? Is it going to be something that will be driven through private investors, or to be driven through government, or how would you
I think
navigate
first
that?
things first, because real estate is definitely it's a major, major issue here. Housing is a major issue here, and I don't think you could really solve that in one day. Well, because the issue is the naira is getting debased every day. It's just the value is losing fast. So you can't really buy a building and then try to renovate it because the price points the next day are going to be completely different. What I would say to that is perhaps land could be an option. Every purchase doesn't have to be a building to renovate. I know this city we're in right now is one of the fastest growing cities in the world. So in the outskirts, they still have land. You could purchase land and you could flip the land and make a profit off of it because this place is fastly, rapidly growing. That's one component, which I've done myself here from abroad. So I think looking into land purchases is an option. Everything doesn't have to be renovation or let me buy and make it look nice, because a lot of times people think real estate, you have to just buy, renovate. It might not work every time. Like I said earlier, it's not black or white. Every market is different. Every strategy is different. So find a new strategy. And if you don't have a strategy here, as I mentioned,
Move abroad.
don't move abroad. Take your mind.
No, that's the money now. Move
yeah,
the
move
money
the
abroad.
money abroad. Exactly. Then bring the money back
Make the
here.
money go work for you
Exactly.
and come back.
Then come back and then use the money here to do new things.
And you, at that point, you have higher capital. But
Higher
let me hear
capital.
from June.
The greatest asset that any of us has is, going back to what Juwan said about we are our own business, right? The greatest asset that we have is time, right? So, if you just started working, you're in your teens, 18, 19, 20, and then you're like, hey, I don't have that much money, so I can't really invest that much. I'm going to delay it. And when I do save enough money, that's when I'm going to invest, right? Again, I'm just on the topic of mindsets is no matter how small the amount, just start early, right? Yeah, you don't have to buy some, Juwan said the most important part about real estate is location, 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 right? I was driving here from the airport and I see these ultra luxury apartments and, these buildings going up. And if you're an 18, 19-year-old, there's no way you can invest in something like that, right? So you don't have to invest in what you see. You can go to the outskirts, right? Get something significantly cheaper for significantly less money, right? Just start small, start somewhere, just start. Just start with whatever you have, no matter how small it is, you will be able to find an investment somewhere, right? And let's say you're 18, 19, you have a little small corner of a lot of land, right? That time that you have as a younger investor, a younger individual, gives you an advantage over a 60, 70-year-old where they don't have that time for that asset to grow, right? So just getting started early, and in terms of how to solve the housing crisis in Nigeria, where it's my first time here. I've been here for a couple hours. I have no idea, right? But we do have a similar issue in the United States, right? Housing is we're in a crisis. Los Angeles, I live in downtown Los Angeles, and I'm sure you guys have seen it on TikTok and Instagram. But we are right next to Skid Row, where people are literally living in tents, and we have the largest concentration of homeless individuals in the country, right? Just a couple blocks away from where I live. And, I'm kind of swerving into politics a little bit here, but, when the government contractors come in to build these one-bedroom apartments, they were building them for about 700,000 USD, which is insane, right? For a one-bedroom apartment that was designed to be for low-income housing. So private contractors came in and said, that's ridiculous. We will do it for a tenth of that price, right? So you do need collaboration between government policies versus private contractors to work, collaboratively for the benefit of that particular area. So I mean, that's what they're working on in the United States right now, and a lot of it also comes down to policy from a federal scale as well as a state scale. And I think Nigeria, as one of the fastest growing cities on the planet, I'm sure soon we will see collaborations between these commercial real estate developers as well as government officials.
Yeah, I think it's coming.
So I think one of the challenges we face, right? So the United States is huge. So you have land, right? If you've ever looked at the map of Nigeria, I'm going to stick to Lagos. Teeny little bit of space. So Lagos has a space problem. We have a land problem. So even from a food security point of view and an agriculture point of view, we have a serious land problem. So today, you go and get a piece of land, and the government says, oh, I'm going to farm, and I'm going to grow food for Lagos State. And then all of a sudden, that land is worth a lot more because developers are like, look, I can put property on that land, and you can make a lot more money. So the idea of those collaborations are really good. The challenge for us then being in not having as much land. So there's sort of a measure of creativity that has to come into solving the real estate and housing challenge. And I suspect that's why, when I hear 550 million homes, I'm like, where are they going to put it? Perhaps not in Lagos. But I want to come back to the time factor because that's really, really key. And if you know what land is talking about, I don't think it matters anywhere in this country. Unless your parents got money, ain't no 18 or 19-year-old. Well, maybe nowadays in the social media revolution and people earning money
because
from...
I mean,
Yes.
if you hear all this social content creators, what they make.
Yeah, so
can
perhaps
afford
them,
it.
right? But that's a very small part of the population if you think about it. So the average 18 and 19-year-old kid is probably not... He's on the road to real estate, but he's not there yet.
Right.
So how do they start smaller? So there's stocks, just to give an idea, so if I'm listening to you now and I'm 18, 19, I'm thinking, I don't even have $1 million naira, but I probably have 50K or I have 100,000 naira. What can I do with that and start to build and use that time to maybe get me to real estate in maybe the next 5 years or 10 years?
So the first thing that I would do, speaking to my younger self or anyone else who's watching this and who might happen to be under 20 or 25. First of all, the first thing you have to do is get educated. You have to invest in yourself, invest in your mind, invest in your well-being. Just prepare your mind because the journey is going to be hard. It's not easy. Nothing worth having is easy. I went through this journey myself, and I can tell you it's worth it, but it's not easy. So first, prepare your mind, okay? Get educated, learn whatever it is that interests you. Second, they have Bitcoin now, guys. They have, I'm telling you, listen to me. I've experienced.
I'm not listening to you.
But one Bitcoin right now is whoa.
Let me tell you, and I'm not here to promote Bitcoin because I don't work for them.
Or just say cryptocurrency.
Cryptocurrency, but I'm telling you the one that's real because I've done it. I'm telling you what I've done. I don't share things that I haven't done. First of all, it's another avenue to invest without having to have the whole pot. Okay, so imagine
you can just buy a fraction.
A fraction. Imagine being able to buy a fraction of a big building. That's what Bitcoin is now, and anyone could do it. Anyone, especially the younger generation, they're familiar with it. They're on the internet. They know. So I don't care if you have $100. You could put the $100 in Bitcoin. It will go up. I've done it myself. I've actually made a lot of money, and I've missed a lot of money because I was like you one time.
I'm still like me. I'm not changing my...
Don't worry. Your son's going to tell you about it.
Maybe.
Yeah. But it speaks to commoditizing, though, because I think that's one thing that we need to leverage in this part of the world. I mean, when you talked about educating yourself and educating your mind, I think that is so key. This is so powerful.
It's powerful.
Data is so cheap. Now you can learn. When you were talking about Bitcoin, I was like, okay, so we don't really support crypto in this part of the world.
I know.
But we do support like commodity trading.
Yes.
So things like buying a little bit of gold. You might not be able to afford a whole gram, but you can buy like a tiny bit of gold. So it was really just so that people understand that there are other options.
Yes.
Real estate is probably like somewhere in your journey.
Yes.
But if you're building up your money now, the real thing is, I love what June said, think about investments and how much you're going to put towards investments as an expense. It's not what's left over. So that's the starting point, right?
love that.
Whatever you earn, and it was so funny that you said that because I listened to I think he's now the chairman, but he was the owner of Rain Oil. Rain Oil is one of the big downstream oil companies. And he said right from when he started NYC, so NYC's youth core, you do it like mandatory service after you finish university. And he said right from then, he was earning about 30,000 naira. But every month he had a stockbroker, even when he was earning 30,000 naira. And he was able to buy 1,000 naira here, 2,000 naira there, right? And he was working in the oil and gas sector. And eventually he got the opportunity, so he was selling diesel, and I think the profit on every truck of diesel was about 30,000 naira or thereabouts, but the truck cost like 100,000. And he had the opportunity to get into it, and he says by the time he went to a stockbroker and said, how much do I have in oil? And the guy goes, oh, everything you have, entire portfolio is worth about 300,000. And he goes, sell.
Because he needed to start his oil
And
and
that's
gas
how
business.
he started. He got his first truck, he sold, he made 30,000 naira. I mean, and today you drive down the streets, there's Rain Oil
There's
everywhere.
Rain Oil everywhere.
Right? He has tank farms, he has everything. So the story is really for people to just understand that, look, it doesn't matter whether you're investing 1,000 naira. If you have time, which is what you have when you're young, when you are youth, and we have a lot of youth, so we're talking to you, is that you have time. So whatever it is, just keep consistency, right? In that mindset is I'm going to keep going. Every month I'm going to put something in that pot and it's going to keep growing. And whatever the percentage is, 5, 10, 20. And in this part of the world, you get really good returns.
You do.
Because mortgage is like, 35%, but then you could get 27%, 27 is a stretch, 22% in treasury bills, right? So we do
22.
have great, that's why I said 22, I caught myself.
It's 22.
22% in treasury bills, right? So we do have local vehicles also that will give you good returns, but it's all about building that pot. Because if you think about $1 being 1,750, buying dollars right now may be disheartening. Okay.
I think one
Let
thing,
me- okay,
one thing I also want to add is, you mentioned starting early, saving, and making a habit, right? And Juwan mentioned just educating yourself, right? Again, like we said, we have this, right? We can learn literally. You don't a PhD in investments through one of these, right? But one thing that I want to add is when you start this investment journey, to also have clear goals and objectives, right? Don't just put money away and say, hey, I hope it grows and I'll use it in the future, right? Think about what am I investing for and what is my time frame, right? So even if you're a young listener, you're in your 20s or late teens or whatever, even though you have time, right? And what time does is it averages out volatility, right? So if I'm using this money for my retirement, then I'm going to use 30 years later. If the market drops 10, 20, 30% tomorrow, it's okay because it'll eventually go up and down, and the more risk I have, the higher return it will have. And over the long term, law of averages, it will be a proper investment, right? But if the goal is, hey, I want to, let's say, given our particular or own individual ages, and we're like, I want to buy a home in 2 years, right? I'm not going to invest it as aggressively as I would for my retirement in 30 years because I need that money in 2 years, right? So think about what goal, what objective, what particular instance that you're saving or investing for, and kind of reverse engineer, work backwards to apply the particular level of risk, right? So that's also very important too.
So I was just going to ask quickly, so if you were to recommend areas to invest, I know you mentioned a little bit of
Bitcoin and gold is what we're talking
yes,
about.
yeah. So-
I even have a particular
Which
question
one?
around that. So can people who live abroad invest in the S&P 500?
They can.
Okay.
They can.
Investing in the States.
Yeah. So for those of you guys that are not familiar with the S&P 500, it's a Standard & Poor's 500, right? So contrary to the name, it has nothing to do with being poor. Standard & Poor's is just a company. But the S&P 500 is a list of the 500 largest companies in the United States, right? So your Apples, your Googles, your Netflixes, your NVIDIAs, right?
Tesla.
Your Teslas, all those companies, as well as plenty of other industries are aggregated in this 500, right? So instead of investing in 500 different companies, you invest in the S&P 500, and it automatically diversifies you across 500 different companies. So even if, let's say, for whatever reason, Apple doesn't sell any iPhones next year and their stock takes a dive, you have 499 of the largest companies in the United States that will prop up Apple taking a nosedive, right? So on that topic, diversifying your investments is also very important. We've seen during COVID, a lot of people started investing in Bitcoin, Dogecoin, like myself, right? How's that doing? Is it going to the moon yet? I haven't checked on that for a while. But diversifying in different asset classes is important. So technology, commodities, industrials, communication, right? So diversification is also another way to minimize your volatility in your portfolio.
Awesome. So what's the lowest entry point for that kind of investment?
In the United States, honestly, you can start with like $5 USD. Even that $5 will automatically be diversified across 500 different companies, right?
I'm going to speak on something real quick too, because she mentioned commodities, and some of the advantages that I see in a place like Nigeria is you do have those opportunities. We don't really back in America, we don't really deal too much with commodities, but because this is such a natural place, people have access to those type of things. Everyone here has an auntie or uncle or elder that might be out further in the farmland or something like that. You have to just think. What can I grab that has less value maybe here, but has more value somewhere else. Even if you have to travel a little distance, those little type of, I call them small hustles, those little type of hustles could help you gain good returns to prepare you for bigger projects.
We're pros at small hustles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I like those small hustles.
I mean,
Turn into big dreams
it
over
makes
time.
sense because we are farmers, right?
Exactly.
We farm palm oil.
Yes.
We have some midterm,
Cassava.
yes, midterm plans, long-term plans, and the short-term
Yes.
plans. And I can tell you for free that if you are really, really patient with agriculture, and now these days you don't really require patience. I can actually travel all the way to north, to Jos, get the ginseng, the ginger, export them. And so there are opportunities with
you're willing to work,
commodities,
yeah, if
yes.
you're willing
But
to
you
work.
have to, first of all, you need to be educated.
Number one.
Yeah.
Educate
You
yourself.
need to be educated because, you can get your fingers burnt.
Yes.
So quickly, what are the worst investments that you've had? And this one just said, oh my God, I shouldn't have done this.
Personally,
The worst, yes, personally.
go for it.
No, you go first.
So this is not an investment I made. It's an investment I didn't make.
Oh.
So this is way before cryptocurrency and Bitcoin got popular, right? So I was in Los Angeles. A friend of mine was like, hey, do you want to go to this party? Great. We went to this party, and it was all these like tech nerds, right? And they're talking about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and this and that. And I was like, I have no idea. This is maybe 13 years ago or something, right? This was when Bitcoin was 25 cents. 25 cents. And they're talking about Bitcoin. And I'm like, what? What is this crypto digital currency, something that you're talking about? And one guy, my friend's like, hey, June, what are your thoughts on cryptocurrency? It's like, nah, it's a lot baloney. Don't listen to that. it's never gonna work. And that was probably the worst investment I did not make.
And
A
speaking-
dollar in that, $5 in that.
So speaking to that, I saw a post, I think yesterday, where somebody used a Bitcoin many years ago to
buy pizza.
To buy pizza.
How much that was worth now?
10,000 Bitcoin.
Bitcoin to buy pizza.
That's
2
worth
boxes of pizza.
$900 million.
Now the person is what, $900 million?
No, that's how much it would be. worth.
It would be now, yes. Okay, so what's your worst investment?
Ironically, it's the same exact circumstance
Wow.
as June expressed. Mine was 2012. One of my good friends, and if you're watching this, Jay, you tried to help me. One of my good friends told me about Bitcoin. It was like, it's going to be the next big thing. At the time, unfortunately, I didn't have much money, and I thought it required a lot of money. I'm like, I need to put tens of thousands in here. This is like 10 years ago, 12 years ago. I didn't have much money. I was just struggling, trying to get on my feet. And he told me about it, and I told my dad about it. It was just wasn't really available easily, so I just put it to the side. I bypassed it. Like 3 years from that point, it went up. It was like $4,000. I'm like, what? I saw this thing like at $200. So after that,
He saw it at 25 cents.
Yeah,
His
his-
one is more painful.
yeah, his is more painful. Mine was like 150, 200. So after that day though, I locked myself in the room for like 3 months. I was just studying, because I'm like, something's up with this thing. I learned everything about it. I put money at that time, like 2017, I put like 10 G's in it. I made like 80K in like 2 months.
Whoa.
It just because it went crazy after that. Boom, 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 boom. Then I'm a believer now. So
But one thing I also
Quickly,
want
yeah.
to, one disclaimer, a little asterisk thing, is hindsight is always 2020, right? Hindsight is always 2020. That 25 cents that I heard at some party could have just gone to nothing, right? We look at the major tech companies today, NVIDIA, they're the largest company on the planet right now. Who would have thought that NVIDIA, who was way behind, the Apples and Microsofts, the Googles of the world, would catapult to where they are right now, right? Looking back on it, it's like, man, I should have put more in NVIDIA. Man, I should have put more in Bitcoin. Man, I should have put more in this and that, right? But it's always diversify, educate first, educate, whether it's through one of these or just do what we used to do in the old days and talk to people, right? Learn and don't stop learning. You have to have a very high thirst for knowledge. Educate yourself and diversify. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, because that basket, I don't know. Is there like a next part of that phrase? It can explode. I don't know. I don't know. Not explode for the better, but for the
Yeah,
worse.
it might go bad. So
Yeah.
I think just spread your investment.
Correct.
Yeah.
You don't know which would,
I had NVIDIA too, bro.
Yeah.
Like 6 years ago. I had
Okay.
NVIDIA.
Think about where you see the market going. Like right now, AI, artificial
Yeah,
intelligence.
so that's where you should follow the
Yeah.
money.
Correct. Technology is not going anywhere. It started the tech bubble burst, and then we've been on a tear.
Absolutely.
But innovation is
That's the
where you should
future.
start
Here to
looking.
stay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we have where we are going. All right, thank you so much, June, and thank you, Joan. All right, so before we go, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And again, if you missed our quote for today, here it is again: the world is flat, and globalization has allowed developing countries, small companies, and entrepreneurs to integrate into wider economic systems with greater ease than before. So take advantage of that, and do yourself some good and invest today. See you guys tomorrow.